everybody, and welcome to the 148th episode of Movie and TV Talk. On this episode, I'm going to be talking about the F1 movie. Remember, there will be spoilers, so let's get into this. This movie revolves mostly around the character of Sonny Hayes, who, at the beginning of this movie, is doing a 24 hours of Daytona race. Of course, the team isn't doing well until Sonny gets in the car and then gets them up to pole position while the next driver is able to secure victory for the team. Sonny decides to head off without the trophy, despite the team leader also offering Sonny a permanent position on the team, which he refuses. Sonny meets with his old friend Ruben, who is now the manager of a Formula One team called Apex GP. From what Ruben tells Sonny, it's easy to tell that this is a struggling team that has not seen any victories thus far. We learn that Ruben and Sonny have a history of driving in F1 some 30 years ago. Of course, Ruben is there because he wants Sonny to join his team and be a driver alongside the team's rookie, Joshua Pierce. We then go to Josh doing some testing around Silverstone, and it's not going well. Sonny eventually shows up, goes for a test lap as well, that ends in him crashing the car and overall not going well. Sonny does a lot of... We eventually get to the first race, which is Silverstone. Sonny does a lot of really questionable things, which I will get to later on in the video. But Sonny does all of this just to get Joshua into a 10th place victory and score the team a point. We do see a lot of friction between Sonny and Joshua at the beginning of the movie, which is pretty typical for a sports movie in general. Eventually we get to a race where Sonny is doing his thing and trying to push Joshua to where all he needs to do is overtake Max Verstappen, but things go wrong. Joshua gets launched in the air and causes quite the crash. The accident causes Joshua to be out for 3 races, and in that time the team actually does really well. Not victories, but really well. And that's because the car gets outfitted with some parts that deal with dirty air, the kind when one F1 car is right behind another, which is another thing I'll talk about later in the video. Eventually, Joshua is cleared to come back, and their first race back, Joshua pulls a move that causes Sonny to go off track and eventually crash. This, of course, pisses Sonny off, and he lets Joshua know after the race. From there, we go to the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Before the race, Kate makes Sonny and Joshua do some poker in an effort to do some team bonding. That leads to Sonny and Kate having some one-on-one bedroom fun. We eventually get to the race, a race where things are going well until Sonny has a bit of a crash and is out of the race. While in the hospital, Ruben visits him and is made aware that Sonny never told him about a spinal injury that he got from a large crash that he endured in the Spanish Grand Prix in the 1990s. Ultimately, Ruben tells him he's off the team. The last race in this movie, which is the last race on the F1 calendar, is Abu Dhabi. In between, Sonny gets an offer from this guy who's on the board for Apex GP. You basically get Ruben out and make Sonny the new team principal, I think. Eventually, Sonny returns to the team, convinces Ruben to let him race, and he does. Joshua and Sonny work together to get a position where all they need to do is overtake Lewis Hamilton. Sonny makes a move which causes Lewis to defend, but allows for Joshua to side past and into first place. Joshua loses sight of Sonny and basically sacrifices his first place to get Hamilton off of Sonny, and that pushes Sonny up into first place and victory, which is the first victory for the team. The movie essentially ends with Sonny leaving Apex GP and going off to do Baja vehicle racing during the end credits. So what did I think of the F1 movie? A lot of this movie has the basic formula for any kind of sports movie. especially in the characters, with how at the start Sonny and Joshua really do hate each other and go at each other, even in some of the races. Of course, by the end of the movie, both Sonny and Joshua have learned to work together and manage to win first place in Abu Dhabi. And of course, that is when Sonny decides to be done with F1 racing. Now, just because it's a very typical thing doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It's just, something that happens a lot in these kinds of movies. That's really it. Something I didn't really care for in this movie was the so-called relationship between Sonny and Kate, as it just felt really forced and not necessary at all. Like, she's the team's technical director and all that. And also, like, one of the only 2 women on the team? It starts with, like, a single conversation the 2 have over beers, and the next thing you know, they're in Las Vegas and they're fucking already? There's really no progression to their relationship over the course of the movie. And I think that it should have just been completely cut from the movie. The story itself is basically all about Sonny and going from this washed up driver who goes from driving job to a pretty decent F1 driver. Again, that's not a bad thing, but something I did want to know after their Abu Dhabi win is, where did the team stand in the Constructors' Championship and where the drivers stood in the drivers' rankings? But I guess that's not important because it's something we don't ever get to see. Again, not something bad, just something I wish for. I do love seeing, though, all of the behind the scenes for this movie, seeing all the special cameras they used, seeing how the Apex GP car is basically a modified F2 car with some work done by the Mercedes AMG guys, which doesn't surprise me because Lewis Hamilton is a producer on this movie. As much as I'm not really on the technical side of F1, it's pretty easy to tell that Sonny does a lot of questionable things during some of these racing scenes. I mean, he was purposefully damaging his car, purposefully going through barriers, blocking people, so on and so forth. Things that, in the real world of racing, the FIA would have just crushed him, and really any other F1 driver done the same thing. So, I found an article that basically explains it all like this. Takes too long to start the formation lap at the British Grand Prix, 10-second penalty and possible 3 penalty points depending on the stewards. Hitting Kevin Magnussen during the Italian Grand Prix, 10-second stop and go and 4 penalty points. Hitting Valtteri Bottas during the Italian Grand Prix, 10-second stop and go penalty and 4 penalty points. Intentionally hitting an advertising sign and causing a red flag. Lap deleted, but could be more severe penalty depending on the stewards. Holding up Max Verstappen under blue flags at the Italian Grand Prix. Drive-through penalty and 2 penalty points. Driving unnecessarily slow in a dangerous manner when battling Verstappen at the Italian Grand Prix, 10-second stop and go, and 3 penalty points. All of this would have resulted in a total of 16 penalty points in just 3 races, which is well over the race ban limit of 12 points. It is also possible that the FIA could be even harsher, given that the team and the drivers are deliberately cheating. Now, obviously the thing is that the really hardcore F1 fans will probably notice and pick all these things apart, and it might even impact their enjoyment of this movie. I knew that what Sonny was doing wasn't right, and was definitely well against the FIA rules. Of course, not to the extent that the article proved. But I did not let that get in the way of my enjoyment of the movie. Probably because I'm more of a casual F1 fan anyway. Also, a small thing I loved is the board guy makes a mention of binging all of Drive to Survive, which that made me laugh, honestly. Overall, while it has some of the typical sports movie DNA, and Sunny's story isn't exactly the most original, I do still find it to be a pretty decent movie to watch, honestly. F1 the movie is a good and enjoyable movie. That's all I have to say, so if you like this kind of content, feel free to subscribe. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.